Welcome to the Real Life Wellness Podcast, the show where we explore how to create your own wellness. We dive into everything that happens on the journey to a happier, healthier, and more balanced life. I'm your host, Faith Lauterbach. As a registered nurse and a holistic wellness coach, I have a passion for empowering people to create a vision for their life, prioritize themselves, and then live the life they want. So get ready to discover new ways to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. Let's embark on this journey together and make wellness simple. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. I'm so glad you're here with me today. What I'm talking about may feel heavy, but I promise it's also filled with light. And I want you to know that if you've clicked play because you've experienced infidelity or you're supporting someone who has, this space is here for you. I'm your host, Faith, and today we're talking about what to do when you've experienced infidelity from a place of healing, not just surviving. In my first marriage, I experienced this. And as I was going through it all those years ago, I knew that someday I wanted to be a light and a guide to others who have gone through the same thing. This episode isn't about fixing everything overnight. It's about finding your footing again, one gentle, honest step at a time. So before we begin, let's take a breath together. Inhale deeply. And exhale slowly. So I think the first part is acknowledging the shock. Infidelity shakes the foundation of trust. And, I think when I was first going through it, I thought it was really just the trust of another person. But I've learned that really, it's the trust in ourselves that is shaken the most and the hardest to get over. Things like, how could I have not known? How could I have not seen the signs that were there? How could I have missed this? And really, it's the fear of it happening again or being able to be in a relationship again and not be in fear all the time. So whether you found out recently or it's something you've carried for a while, one of the most important things to do is to acknowledge the emotional earthquake that has taken place. While I don't believe that this experience is one that defines me, it is something that has shaped me. It has a ripple effect into so many different things that to me, it's not possible just to sweep under the rug. You may have many different feelings happening. I know I did. They may be hurt, confused, angry, betrayed, numb, or maybe all of them all at once. And that's okay. There is no right way to feel. And however you're feeling is okay and completely right for you. I think what matters most is that you don't rush to shut down your emotions. Give yourself permission to grieve, to cry, to feel. Feelings are meant to be felt, and if we don't fully feel them, then they find another way to be heard. So as hard as it can be, as much as you may want to push an easy button to not feel, it's important to give yourself this gift to feel your feelings. I like this affirmation or mantra. This pain is valid. I don't have to minimize, and I am allowed to feel everything that comes up. The next thing I want to talk about is finding an anchor in self-care. Infidelity creates emotional chaos. When I was going through it, it felt like I had no control over any part of my life. There were so many things that were happening, decisions that had to be made, things that have been decided about my life that I had no control over. And that is why grounding yourself in a daily self-care practice is essential. You're not just surviving this, you're reorienting who you are and what you need. I remember feeling like I was living in some kind of upside down world. If you have seen that show Stranger Things, it felt very relatable, as in I was walking around in my own life. Things kind of looked the same, but nothing was normal. Nothing was the same. So I knew I had to do something to feel peace, to feel right side up. And what I started doing was, it's going to sound very simple, but it had a huge impact. What I started doing was I made my bed as soon as I woke up. There was something about a nice, clean, orderly bed that helped me feel less anxious. I then would grab my coffee and I would do a 5-minute guided meditation on an app, and then I journaled for 5 minutes. Before I checked my phone, before I looked at social media, before I checked emails or text messages, I did this. Those 3 things. Make my bed. I guess it's 4 things. Make my bed, get my coffee, 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of journaling. And this practice saved my life. Everyone's grounding practice or self-care routine is going to look a little bit different. Here are some other ideas. And whatever you do, I would say, I guess I would recommend starting small. It doesn't have to be this huge practice that takes hours. It can literally take 10 minutes. So some other ideas are drink water right when you get up and make sure you're staying hydrated, even when food feels hard. Move your body, stretch, go on a walk, go to a workout class. This helps physically move that stress through your body. Light your favorite candle. Take a warm bath. Find things that feel comforting. Maybe it's a weighted blanket, a heating pad, things that just feel like a hug. And remember, these things aren't luxuries, they're life support for your nervous system. And if you're finding it hard to function, that's normal too. Be gentle with yourself. The next part I want to talk about is reclaiming your voice. One of the deepest wounds from infidelity is the feeling of being voiceless and powerless. Like the story of your relationship got rewritten without your consent. But you do still have a voice, and you can use it when you're ready. That may mean talking to a therapist or a counselor or a coach. It might mean confiding in a trusted friend. And then figuring out what boundaries and clarity mean to you and stating them clearly. I think this is a big piece. When you feel violated, it feels raw. It feels like you've been gutted. And being able to clearly state what you do need and what you don't want is really important. And so finding clear and concise ways to say that. And it might be little small things. But finding that voice and using it is empowering. You don't owe anyone immediate decisions. And so one of the pieces of advice I got very early on was give yourself permission to not make a decision for a little bit. Let yourself just be. I'm a person who likes to restore something, like the new restoration. So like whatever the new normal is going to be, I just want to fast forward and get to that. Like this in-between stuff is like torture. And this process of healing after infidelity, there's a lot of in between. There's a lot of awkward. There's a lot of uncomfortable. And so I really wanted to just get to the new normal. But pausing for a moment, giving myself a moment to take a breath and to just say, I don't have to make any decisions right now, was really empowering for a time. Maybe a journal prompt that might help, or just saying it out loud and thinking what comes to mind is, what do I need to feel safe right now? Also, give yourself permission to change your answer. What feels safe right now might be different tomorrow or the next day or the next week or the next month. Because as you're processing these feelings, you're going to be learning a lot about yourself. And so I encourage you to listen to yourself fully and make the choices that you need to in the moment. Give yourself permission to listen to what you need right now. Choosing your healing path. Healing after infidelity looks different for everyone. Some people stay and rebuild. Some leave and rediscover themselves completely. When you are true to yourself, both paths are valid. But whether you stay in the relationship or leave the relationship, healing and deep inner work is needed to be done. So regardless, there's work to do. To heal and to fully get through this experience so that you are thriving and living a great life, deep inner work has to be done. And so I would say this is really where your inner compass matters more than anyone else's opinion. Getting comfortable listening to your intuition. And I would say intuition isn't anxious, it isn't urgent. Intuition is steady and often a quieter voice. And you may have never really known how to listen to your intuition, because I have a lot of people ask me, how do I know if it's anxiety or if it's my inner knowing? And that's a really great question. I think you have to get really comfortable with listening to yourself, letting yourself have a voice. I think journaling is a great way to know this, to get comfortable in this practice. But this is so necessary to listen to your inner compass as you're going through this experience. Healing isn't about pretending it never happened. It's about choosing the version of your life that honors your worth. Okay, so some tools for moving forward. Here are some things that I often recommend for clients walking through this betrayal. Mindfulness. So that term I know has gotten a lot of buzz in the recent years, but mindfulness is really about being in the present moment. I can tell you that going through infidelity is a time where you're constantly, at least I was constantly thinking, replaying the past, replaying things that were said or done, replaying things that I didn't see, but I knew had happened, or constantly trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And so what I've found is having mindful practices like my morning meditation, like journaling, like, working out, things like that that bring you into the present moment were so needed. And you can't always be mindful. I mean, there's going to be times that your mind wanders to the past or to the future, especially in these kind of circumstances. That is normal. You are normal if that's happening to you. But adding in intentional mindfulness practices is going to give you so much peace. I know I've talked about journaling a couple times throughout here, but journaling is a gift. And I journaled through my entire experience of healing and the raw emotion. And oh my gosh, I have gone back and reread my journal several times in different periods of my life, and it is powerful. I was very open and honest about everything I was going through and feeling, and I know that it helped me immensely through this process. In your journal, you can write letters to yourself. You can write letters to your partner. You can do a brain dump journal where you just allow everything that comes to your mind to be written out. You just write freely without editing yourself. I know for me personally, I had a really hard time with anger. I didn't want to feel angry. So when I would feel angry, I would try to make myself feel something else. And I was seeing a therapist at the time, and she told me, as soon as you feel angry, I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to write down everything that you're feeling. Write everything down. Instead of trying to push that anger down, write it down and let it out. And that was so helpful for me. Meditation or prayer. Again, connecting with that inner knowing, your intuition, with your faith, your sense of inner peace. Doing that in different ways, maybe having some different readings that you read from, quotes that help. I had a book of quotes that I wrote in myself. It was just a little journal that didn't have any lines in it, just pages. And I would write when I saw a quote that helped me, that made me feel something that was yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear right in this moment. I would write them down. And that was really helpful as well. So the other thing would be other people. So like I said, therapists. I saw a therapist during the time and I did EMDR, and that was so powerful and so helpful. There's support groups, coaching. Just knowing that healing doesn't happen in isolation. It does take a village. It really does. And so finding who your village is, and that village is going to be, because in this category would also be friends. But I would say there's going to be a lot of people that want to know what happened. A lot of people reach out. What happened? They want to know. And there's a difference between wanting to know and wanting to be a support. There's a difference. And so it's finding out and being intentional, knowing that it's okay to share your story, but who you share your story to matters. Not everybody gets to know what's in your heart. So find your people. And then remember that your healing is yours. You don't have to follow anyone else's timeline. There's not a perfect formula to quote unquote get over this. There's just not. This is your life and your story, and you get to do what works for you. So infidelity may have been part of your story, but it does not have to define your worth, your future, or your capacity to love and be loved again. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to get angry. You're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to take up space, and you're allowed to start over. Take your time. Protect your peace. And come back to yourself again and again. If this episode spoke to you, you are not alone. You are not alone. If you've been cheated on and feel overwhelmed, stuck, or unsure of what to do next, I would love to be part of your story and journey of healing. I'm honored to offer a program called Empowered After Infidelity. And what it is it's 2 gentle and empowering sessions, and it's here to help you come home to yourself. These sessions are for you if you're ready to stop replaying the past and start rebuilding your future with support and healing, not pressure. There's a link in the show notes to schedule your first session. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You are healing even now. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Real Life Wellness Podcast. To stay updated on my latest episodes and wellness insights, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow me on social media. If you have any questions or topics you'd like me to explore, feel free to reach out. I love hearing from you. If you could, please review or rate this podcast on Apple or Spotify to help more people learn how to make wellness simple.